Hi, welcome back, you beautiful souls. I want to apologize for not having uploads in a couple of days. I've had some technical issues with a few other videos that I'm going to have to redo because the sound in them's like messed up, so I have to redo those. But that being said, this will be the start of a new series that I've talked to a few of the viewers on Discord about, and I've also have had the suggestion by several commenters and a few people over Discord PMing me. So that being said, this is what if Deku was Kryptonian? So that being said, or I will come up with a title at the end of this video for the series. So we begin our story on a particular planet in a particular universe. And you just hear, "Ray, get out of here. The Matrix is failing." And you just hear system overload imminent. Comes over a broadcast system. And then the woman says, "You and I both know you need a second pair of hands to keep this place from taking out the city." Then we cut to a few moments later. People are getting out of the facility, and you just hear loud explosions can be heard throughout the facility. Ray and Nu are thought to be dead because the building was destroyed as in a vacuum. And pieces of the building are all over the place. Ray and Nu are thought to be dead and are heralded by their people as saviors to prevent a global catastrophe. Because this explosion, if they wouldn't have done what they did, would have taken out like pretty much not only the entire city, but half the continent that they were on. So that being said, we now cut to Ray and Nu's perspective. Sorry about that. So Nu and Ray, they're confused. They're trying to figure out, like, they thought they had died, and Ray and Nu notice that they see a yellow sun, and they're like, Nu, he's thinking, he's like, did we get transported in time? Like, where are we? And so the first couple of days that they're here on a particular Earth, they come to realize that they're no longer on Krypton. And Nu, with basic science knowledge that he has been able to deduce that they aren't even in their own universe. Now, some of you may be asking, like, how is this possible? Well, in canon Superman lore, in Kryptonian lore, the Phantom Zone projector, or Phantom Zone, whatever you want to call that, when they're Kal-El's father wasn't the only Kryptonian in the multiverse that was working on that type of technology. And who's to say in one universe that this technology went AWire when they were testing it and created a transdimensional gate that transported people in a area. Like, it's a freak accident, and even intelligent people would have a hard time figuring out exactly what went wrong and what caused this. because the Phantom Zone projector does technically open up a gate to another dimension, albeit a sub-dimension of the one that you're currently in. Like, the Phantom Zone is a weird place. And it has been shown that time doesn't necessarily run congruent in the Phantom Zone. So, all that's besides the point, and there's not really much really going into it until later. So, after they come to, they spend the next several years processing their options. So, like I said, they spent the next several years processing their options, and I would say this is about 2 years. During this time, Nu and Rei have taken on the names Inko and Hasashi. And so we have Inko, Rei, and Hasashi Nu. So they can better engross themselves in the local population of, in Nu's head, primitives. But it's not like Nu has a disgust for them, for like humanity. It's more as though he doesn't really see them as like equals, but not in a bad way. It's more like if you're an adult and you see a child, he has that kind of mentality where he views the whole of humanity as children, but there are a few exceptions. Most notably, there's a few scientists that are doing some cutting edge work that are, it's, in Nu's mind, is pretty advanced for their species. Rei, on the other hand, it has been antsy, and when she figures out that she can apply for a hero license and actually do hero work, Hisashi, like he realizes that, well, since we're gonna be here, and I don't know how long it's gonna take for me to get us back home. I don't even know what happened. So we time skip like a couple more years, and all of this is happening well before our main character comes into play. So after them have been on the planet for 3 years, and they've known each other like since they were kids. Rei, she was a warrior Kryptonian. Basically, she was in the Kryptonian police force / military, and Nu, he was a top scientist for the Kryptonians of their universe. And Rei, she was assigned as the lab's protector, so that's why she was there. So after being out of the planet for years and have known each other for a while, they've gotten a lot closer than what they initially were. Like, they were friends, but it never really amount to anything different. Because during this time, Rei has been able to see the more strategic mind of Nu. She's always thought of him as like an egghead, a nerd. And she's been more interested in practical things that she can physically touch, not like as far as metaphysical ideas. But Nu had come up like with this. He's like, that's actually a pretty damn good idea, actually. It would allow us to make money here and acquire some resources if we need to by legal means. And since this planet, they have what was that article? That article said, quirks. Since like there's quirks, I think we should register our abilities as quirks. That way we can use them in public, especially if you get a hero's license. Well, we're not supposed to use them from law and everything, but in any case, Ray, it's a good idea if you did a hero. It would also give us a cash flow, a more steady one, besides doing these odd jobs and everything. So, Inko, she will, in this, be a top hero, while Hasashi is just a stay-at-home dad's kind of slash scientist, because he is working, he's vigorously working on getting back to his own universe. And there's a little thought in the back of his head after him and Ray had gotten married. And this is about 6 months after they had been on the planet for 4 years. So 4.5 years. So they've gotten married, and they've gotten a lot closer over the past several years, because they don't even know if it's even possible if they can return home or not. So Ray, she's more into kind of making the best of things as it is, and knows more about his personality is more towards having a plan and planning things out. So over these years, she has shown some Kryptonian hand-to-hand martial arts, and she was surprised about how well he grasped it. And Nu's actually pretty surprised about her intelligence, because he has explained some things to her, and she's like, oh, so you mean this by this? And because their relationship up until now has been more one who has brawn and one that has brains. But by human standards, Ray would be a quasi-genius, because in Kryptonian society, they study stuff like quantum physics shortly after their 5th year in school. Or when they're 5 and 6 years old is the kind of stuff that they learn is engineering stuff. So that being said, we cut to a few more years of them being on Earth, on My Hero Academia's Earth, if you haven't already guessed it already. But now we cut to Iizuku Nu's birth, or if you guys want to still call him Midoriya. So, matter of fact, actually comment that down in below. Ray's official name would be blank Ray Nu, and it would be Nu Hasashi. So what I'm going to ask viewers, if you guys can come up with either should their official last name, as far as the Japanese government's system should be, should their name still be Midoriya, or should they have their Kryptonian last names? So, that being said, let's move on. So, Iizuku, he's born, and being Hisashi, so I'm going to use Hisashi and Inko from here on out, and I will use Nu in place until I get a decision from you viewers about what their official last name should be. So, after Iizuku is born, she looks down at her son, and she looks up at Hisashi, and she's like, it wouldn't be so bad to live here, right? It would give our child a chance to choose what they want to do in life, instead of be forced into something that that we were kind of bred for our species. So Hisashi, like, he basically walks over and kisses his wife's forehead and says, well, we may never be able to get back to our universe, and this will be his home. This will be what he grows up. This will be the world he grows up on, most likely. Because there's a few materials that would be kind of... I don't even think it's possible to get in this universe. So, they, like, a few more years pass. Iizuku, he's just now started walking. And over the years, Inko and Hisashi, like, they are known as a power couple. Inko's a hero, and she's actually on her way to becoming the #1 hero. Just not yet. Because she did, her and Hisashi did get, I'm going to say they were involved in a few rescue operations, and they showed off their super strength and their flight. And over the years, Hisashi is will have kind of gone into the background, while Inko has really fallen into the job of a hero. Because she's not a Kryptonian that's in the military that has like bloodlust. Like, they're in it for like the thrill of combat. She's in the military because of her family, but she actually enjoys helping like her fellow citizens out, which kind of made her one of the better soldiers in the military / police force that their Krypton had. So Iizuku, he's about 2 years old, and the doctors have said it's kind of weird. His skin isn't as adorable as you two, looking at Hisashi and Inko. And they both say, well, our quirks are kind of weird. We both didn't get our abilities until like later in life, but he does have our strengths. And the doctor's like, yes, that's quite indeed. While Iizuku's basically holding the medical bed over his head when he's 2 years old. And a few seconds later, he puts it down and kind of passes out because he's just a rambunctious toddler. And no, Iizuku won't be getting flight like out the bat. I would say, just like in Smallville, it will take him years to learn how to do that. And the only reason why Inko and Hisashi are able to do it is because they were adults when they started soaking up solar radiation. So their bodies were more developed to be able to process their Kryptonian physiology was more developed to process the solar radiation, and that's how I'm going to say it works. At least that's the feeling that I was getting from the series Smallville when I used to watch that when I was younger. So, and the doctor's like, so what brings you here today? The boy seems like he's pretty healthy. It's like, Hisashi's like, well, we believe my wife here, she's pregnant with our second child, and we would like to get a doctor's advice. And The doctor's like, yeah, but you guys already have a child. And Sasha's like, I may be a scientist, but I'm not a medical scientist. My expertise were more, well, let's say, extravagant would be the best in your language. Because they did have to learn Japanese, but on top of that, they have since learned more than one language of the world. Just because of the nature of Inko's work, she's picked up other languages so she can communicate with other people of the world. And this reinforces Hasashi's view of all the people on this planet being primitives, because they still don't have a unified government, and they have completely different languages. They don't have a universal language. So the doctor kind of is like, wow, you're going to have another one, Power Girl? And Inko's like, yeah, man, God, I wish I would have came up with a better name than that. In any case, I've been feeling weird. Like, it kind of reminded me when I was pregnant with my son, and your pregnancy tests don't really work on me. Like, I had... And so the doctor's like, say no more. We can do an ultrasound right now if you want, to see if you are. Though blood work would be more than confirming it. So they do an ultrasound, and they do see that a fetus had started to develop. And so Iizuku, we skip to a couple more years. And oh boy, this is going to be a brutal one. So we're going to skip another 5 years. So that would place 2, 4.5, 6.5 plus 5. So Inko and Hasashi have been on, like, in this universe and on this planet for almost 12 years now. So Inko has gotten a name for herself, and she has since recently, like several months prior to this, has become the #1 hero in Japan, and is world renowned as being one of the strongest heroes of all time. Because Inko, she doesn't just operate like in Japan, but she's based out of Japan. She does go to like international disaster zones like flash floods, hurricanes, stuff like that, like where there's huge natural disasters and they need like rescue work done. She does come in and helps out, and this is why she's gotten a little bit more popular than All Might. And I would say she has had a few run-ins with All Might a couple of times. And so we're cutting to... So this is when Iizuku is 7, and his sibling, she is 5. And one of my subscribers over Discord, me and him, at least I believe they're him, have come up with a name for this girl, for Izuku's little sister. And I believe it's pronounced Hinode, but I'm going to shorten that to Hino. And just as like when people shorten your name in Japanese to like just a few syllables, like Iizuku calling Katsuki Kacham, it would be similar to this. Like Hino-chan would be what some people would say when they speak to her, and they would only use like her whole name when they are seriously need to get her attention. So we're going to skip. No, we're not. That's later. So Iizuku, over the past couple of years, has been having this reoccurring dream. Has been having reoccurring dreams of different people and everything, and he's asked his mom about it, and she doesn't quite understand what it is. And neither does Hisashi, and they're a little concerned because some of what he's describing, like, they're thinking maybe he could have one of the gifts of the gods of Krypton, is what they believe they are, but it's more like an evolution in the Kryptonian. It's kind of like quirks are. But and these are extremely rare cases where a Kryptonian will be born with special powers. Like, the most common of these extreme rarities, like, these are very unheard of, conditions, but some Kryptonians are born with very few are born with special abilities. The most common amongst these rare cases of abilities is a version of telepathy, where they can communicate with someone via like mind to mind. And there are others, but Kryptonians that are born with extra, with powers, tend to have telepathy. It's the most common. It's the one that we've had the most named characters that have this ability, that are Kryptonian, that are named, have had this ability over others. So, that being said, Hisashi, he's a smart one. He thinks maybe Iizuku may be one of these special Kryptonians. Excuse me. So he begins to take a more interest in his son, and Iizuku, he's more like his mother, or more into fighting, and he's a huge hero fanboy. And Hinode, she's more like her father. She takes more after Hisashi knew, and she's more of a brainchild than physical. But that being said, Iizuku and Hinode are very smart for their age by human standards, and they're pretty much average as far as Kryptonians go. But Hinode, she's a little bit more smarter. She, just like her father, would have been recognized as being smart by Kryptonian standards. It's just his parents don't really have the proper facilities and equipment so that Hisashi can kind of train her intelligence. Basically, he does go over them with stuff, and the only piece of Kryptonian tech that they have is archive crystal, but without anything to view it with, it's kind of useless. So now we cut to when he's 2 more years, and Iizuku is 9 years old, which would make Hinode 7 now. And he approaches his mom, and he's like, "Mom, I'm starting to have dreams of that girl again, and I don't know. And in this, like, she's always saying, like, who am I? Like, what am I?" And then it's over. And Inko does tell Hasashi, and this is and Sasha's like, well, they've changed, so that means, well, it's potential. So Hasashi, he begins doing research online, basically looking up, like, cases, because he's like, okay, because he has done, like, a few stargazing with, like, a few telescopes and stuff, basically using Inko's fame and renown, getting access to, like, certain high, powerful telescopes. And he does know that he's thinking, well, since he's hit a roadblock with being able to produce something that can get them back to their own universe, maybe he can try to get in contact with the Krypton of this universe and potentially get the materials that he needs to get home. So he's research things. So now he begins to looking up for, like, weird reports, because he's thinking, well, if this has a Krypton, it's potential that there could be Kryptonians as well. Because he had begun to see, like, rumors and stuff of a young person exhibiting similar abilities to his wife, on top of certain abilities. Like, there's one instance of her of this young person catching stuff on fire with, like, lasers from her eyes. And this is when Hasashi is, like, saying, so I guess there are Kryptonians, but why would a Kryptonian be here on this planet? And this just creates more questions for Hasashi than answers. So he does end up finding this individual instead of confronting them outright, because Hasashi's number one priority is protecting his family. Getting back to his own universe is second only to that. So he decides to do some recon on this individual, and he begins to leave late at night, and Inko doesn't really think much of it at first, but after several months, almost a year of Hasashi doing this, he begins, like, Inko kind of, like, approaches him and asks him, like, where have you been going? You've been sneaking out late at night, and you haven't been returning for hours. Like, what are you doing? Have you figured something out? And Hasashi's like, God, this is kind of hilarious. I was actually going to speak to you about this. You know how there's been reports of someone that has similar abilities to you, like, over in the States? Well, I've been able to track them down, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think she may be Kryptonian. And Inko's like, how I thought we were the only ones caught in that explosion. And Hasashi's like, calm down. I said she was Kryptonian. I didn't say she comes from where we come from. And Inko's like, what? You think there's there's a Krypton in this universe? Does that mean, like, we can be amongst people that are kind of like us? But why would a Kryptonian be so far away from their homeworld? Isn't this place supposed to be, like, a couple of galaxies over? And Sashi's like, yes, but that's why I've been watching this individual, and it seems like they're just a teenager, and they don't really understand what their abilities and everything are. And Inko's like brings up the fact that, well, Iizuku's been dreaming about this girl, and this is when Inko kind of describes the girl, and Hasashi's eyes go wide. And Inko's like, what's wrong, dear? And Hasashi's like, well, that basically confirms, like, two theories. One about our sun, and one about there being other Kryptonians on this planet. Well, kind of enforces that she's Kryptonian. But we'll deal with our son later. Like, they're asleep, right? And he goes like, yeah, and well, Iizuku, he's old enough to take care of himself. And she's a smart girl. What's up? We need to go to the States now. And Hisashi just basically, like, starts flying, and he goes like, what's going on? Well, dear, I was going to actually talk to you tonight about this. Apparently, one of this girl's, like, favorite heroes. I've been keeping a close eye on her, and no, I made sure she didn't see me because I thought she may be a threat to our family. But it doesn't seem like she understands the full extent of her abilities. But from what Iizuku's been thinking of, and you confirming that she fits the description perfectly of what he's been dreaming of, she may not even know what she is. And she's looking for answers. And I thought maybe you being there would kind of put this poor girl at ease, considering you're a world-renowned hero. And this is when he says, if you would have helped out, you could have been known throughout the world too. And Hasashi kind of laughs. You know me, Ray. I don't like public eye, even when we were on our world. And mind you, these two are flying over the Atlantic/Pacific Ocean, like, because I'm not sure which way they would want to go. They would either want to, like, have a long conversation, so they would head over Asia to the U.S., to Kansas. And yes, this is going to be a tie-in to the Superman Prime/Golden Age Superman lore a little bit. And so Hisashi explains where they're heading, and she's like Kansas, like, why would they be there? And Hisashi's like, I'm not quite sure. So we cut to a small farm in a small town in Kansas. And just for simplicity's sake, we'll call this town Smallville. And there actually is a Smallville, USA. I would have to double check to make sure it was in Kansas, but I do know there is a Smallville, USA. So they arrive at, we cut to this farm, and it's a little bit in a day, because I would say they didn't just speed there, they did take their time, because it has been a while since they just, like, really talked when it was just them. So I'd say they take their time, and it takes them like an hour to get there. So this is about morning. This is morning time, I believe, or late morning, local time, and on the farm in Kansas. So Inko and Asashi land, and this girl basically runs up to them, and she's like, "Whoa, it's intense!" And oh my god, it's Power Girl. Hey, what are you doing here? And Inko basically says, "Well, young lady, you've been using your abilities, and we've kind of been watching you, and we think you may have questions about who you are." And the girl's eyes just go wide. She's like, "What's going on?" And an older gentleman and an older woman come out, and they're like, "Sarah, dear, what's going on?" And this is Jonathan and Martha Kent. So we'll have Sarah Kent. And they're like, "It's nothing, Ma. It's just a famous hero from Japan is here to see me." And they look concerned. There's a look of concern on their faces. And Hasashi basically runs over to them. And he says, "I'm sorry, can we speak inside? I believe there's some things that we may have some answers for the young lady." And so they do go inside, and Hisashi basically opens up and he says, "She's not human, is she?" And Martha Kent and Kent. So Jonathan and Martha Kent basically like, how did you guys know? And this is when Inko pipes up and is like, "Well, we're not exactly human either. I'm assuming from," and this is Sasashi speaking, "I'm assuming from how she's behaved over this past year that I've watched her." And she's like, "I believe you're somewhat like us. I believe you may be Kryptonian." And this is when all three, like Sarah, Martha, and Jonathan's eyes just kind of widen up. And they're like, "How did you know?" And Sasha's like, "Well, looking at Inko, well, me and Ray here, we're Kryptonian too, but we're not exactly the Kryptonian that you are." And so this is when Hisashi asks, like, "So how did you get here?" And Sarah looks down and is like, "I'm not entirely sure, but I do have a spaceship. I don't really remember, like, I just remember Mom and Pa looking at the kids." And Hisashi's like, "Can you show me your spacecraft?" And so they do take it. And Hisashi's like, "Holy crap. Well, you're definitely Kryptonian. Though I can't really read the language that well. I guess multiverse theory is a bitch. Not everything translates over." And this is when young Sarah's like, "Wait, multiverse?" And Sasha's like, "Yes, remember, we're Kryptonians, but we're not Kryptonians native to this universe." And this is just a mind blow for Sarah. And Jonathan and Martha can't, like, this is shocking to them, but knowing that their adopted daughter may not necessarily be from around these parts, if you know what I mean. It makes sense that she would have all these different types of quirks. And I'm going to say that Jonathan and Martha's quirks, like Jonathan's quirk would be something like a plant cultivation or like a fertilizer quirk. Basically, he can improve a plant's health and yield and stuff like that. And Martha has like a similar quirk. That's why they have a farm like in this like at this age in the story. So, and then Hisashi turns to her and is like, "Do you mind if I take this?" And Sarah's like, "And there's also this." And this is when Hisashi's eyes just go wider than wide. And she's like, "What is it?" And Hisashi's like, it can't be. It's a crystal. A very good one. This thing, it would have all the answers that you have for you. That you would have about where you come from and us. In any case, I don't have the materials here on this world to get it, but maybe if I can figure out where Krypton is, I can go there and get the materials I need to produce it so that we can get home. And then he turns to Sarah and is like, "Do you want to come with us? Because you need some space to, for it to grow." And she's like, "What do you mean by that?" And Inko, she basically walks up to the Kens and asks them, it's like, "Do you mind if we take young Sarah on a trip?" And they basically say yes, like if our daughter can learn more about who she is. When you first said that you guys were Kryptonians, I was thinking maybe you two were her parents. And Inko's like, "Oh no, sweetie, I have children of my own, and I credit you. Raising a Kryptonian as a human, being human, it mustn't have been an easy task." And this is when Martha kind of starts laughing, and she's like, "Yeah, she was a handful." And Inko's like, "Yeah, my son was a handful. Thank God my daughter takes more after her father." And so Inko and Hisashi do get permission to bring Sarah, and they take her to the South Pole in Antarctica. And basically they use the crystal, and a Fortress of Solitude is built. And the data crystal that grew this, and the crystal that grew this place, some of the information on it was corrupt. So all it has is Jor-El, and it has it doesn't have Jor-El. I forget what Jor-El's brother, or let's just say it's Jor-El. It's just gender been Kal-El. And it explains that they had to send her away, and they apologized for not being able to come with her. And it cuts out. And Hisashi's like, "Huh, that's weird." In any case. And Sarah's just standing there. And it goes on to explain who she is and who they are. And any knowledge that she needs to know about like her heritage can be found in these crystals. And Hisashi's thinking, yeah, but the idiot didn't take into account for travel time and possible improper storage of the crystal. So God, idiot. us Kryptonians in this world. And so Hisashi will spend a lot of time here. And this is when Inko turns to Sarah after they're on the way back to the U.S. And Inko's like, so how are you've learned to fly? Like, how'd you figure that out? Like, my children still haven't been able to do it. And, well, we've thought with you being able to fly, like, it may be different in our physiologies. And Sarah's like, I don't know. It just seems like every single time, like, I spend a long time in the sun, like, I just got progressively stronger. And then one day I went to, like, go jump, and I never really came back down. And I guess I'm able to fly. So Sarah then turns to her and is like, yeah, like, you seem familiar. You haven't made a trip over to Japan, have you? And Sarah basically, like, kind of blushes, but how'd you know? And Hisashi pipes out, it's like, well, I have been really following you. I was a little concerned about you coming to Japan. I thought you may be a threat to my family. But it just seemed like you were trying to follow my wife there around. So I didn't think too much of it. And this was towards the end. This was only recent you've done that, this young lady. But I do have to ask you. You've got to keep what we are a secret. And we're going to have to figure out a way that we can explain your relationship to us without raising any eyes. And so they get Sarah back home because Inko and Hisashi are technically her guardians at that point because they had permission from her parents to take her. So Hisashi and Inko are basically a little, there's a bittersweetness in their eyes. Inko, more so Inko, because yes, she wants to go home, but she's built a life here. She has friends here. This is where her children have grown up. They have friends and everything. And she turns to Hisashi and she's like, it looks like we'll be able to go home soon, right? And Hisashi's like, yeah. And Hisashi's kind of looking down. And this is when Martha and Jonathan come out, and they hug Sarah, saying, like, so how was the trip? And Sarah's like, it was awesome. I learned a lot about Kryptonians. Apparently I come from the House of El, and Mr. New over there, he said that even in their universe, the House of El was one of the great houses that led Krypton. And he thinks it's the same case in this. And so they don't really understand why I was sent off, but they're concerned about my abilities and, like, their secret. And this is when Martha basically asks Inko, it's like, so how about we say this? Your sister, like, you are her aunt. Because you guys do look a little similar. And Inko says, yeah, I'm kind of thinking that, or she was like, like, I was thinking, looking at Hisashi, that he had cheated on me with someone. And Hisashi's like, I would never do that, dear. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I wanted to be 100% sure on what she was and who she was before I talked to you about it. And Inko kind of laughs. And so Inko's like, so what were you saying, Miss Martin? What were you saying, Kent? And Martha Kent's like, you can just call me Martha, dear. There's no reason to be so formal. In any case, like I was saying, how about we say that you're her only family? Because it is on records that we did adopt her. And you're just like, you're a cousin, or like you're a aunt that was unknown of. That way, when she does start exhibiting more and more of what you call Kryptonian abilities, it wouldn't raise too many questions. Though you would have to figure out how to explain you didn't know you had a niece. So Inko's has begun to think about this. And on their way home, Inko stops in midair, and Hasashi stops and asks her what's up. And Inko's like, is it possible that we can just stay here? Maybe if we're able to just travel back for a visit, maybe? And Hasashi's like, what's this about? And Inko goes, I've made friends here. No, I've made some really good friends here. And that Sarah girl, she doesn't have anyone right now. And we need to at least get her back in contact with her people before we leave permanently anyway, right? But our kids, they've grown up here and they have good friends. Do you think it's possible that we could just stay here? And Hashi's like, I began to think that myself, dear. I just didn't know if you would agree to it or not. But I would like to introduce our kids to their people. So Hasashi will continue trying to figure out a way back to his universe, but they've really come into fitting this, because with Iizuku and Hinode growing up, and we're going to skip a couple of months to Iizuku and Katsuki. They're going at it, and they're having a fight and everything, and Iizuku's holding back his punches and stuff like this, and Katsuki's like, that's right, you always hold back, except for that one time. And Iizuku's like, what do you mean? Why have you been such a dick, and you've been distancing yourself for the past several years now? I don't get you, Kachan. What's going on? And Katsuki's like, you ripped someone's arm off when we were kids. How do you think I'm supposed to take that? Deku? And this is when Inko basically lands in between the two, basically telling Iizuku's like, you're grounded, go home now. And Iizuku basically runs off, and she approaches Katsuki, and she's like, I'm sorry, young Bakugo, I didn't know this affected you that well, and I'm sorry for my son's actions. I promise he won't hurt you. And Katsuki's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Is he going to be okay? And Inko's like, yeah, he'll be fine. We've talked to him about that. He didn't really mean that, but he didn't have a choice, and we have told him, only to use his abilities, his quirks, if it was necessary. And from what he said, he didn't realize how much stronger he was from that guy, and he did help protect you. So please don't be so scared. Give him hard time. And so when Iizuku gets home, there's a blonde-haired and a blue-eyed girl standing outside his home, just looking at him. And she's like, oh, you must be in... Iizuku's like, I don't care who you are. What are you doing in front of my house? And she's like, rude much? Like I was saying, you must be Power Girl's son. And Iizuku's like, wait, what? Power Girl, who's that? Who's that? And she's like, don't be Dent. I know who your parents are. And Iizuku is like, wait, are you that girl from the U.S.? And she's like, yeah. And about this time is when Hisashi had come to the door, because she did ring the door. And Hisashi did see that something, and Hisashi's like, huh, my son, you're home a little early. What happened? And he's like, me and Kacchan got in a fight again today, Dad, and he said something that's really gotten to me. Sasha's like, we'll speak later, but in any case, this is the young lady that we've been telling you about. And Iizuku's like, so she's like us. And Sasha's like, more or less. But she's here today because I've been working on something. And so, there's a place that we would like to show you. And because you've always asked about our culture and where we come from. And I've never lied to you about this, but I can't really show you without taking you here. And he turns to Sarah, and he's like, can we use your lab? So with that, you beautiful souls, this is coming up on 102 minutes, and I went over just a little cliffhanger for the part 1 that I have planned out. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about this series, and if you would like more parts. And I apologize for all of that, and I will see you beautiful souls in the next video.